Monster House. Yeah. Now, I gotta be honest, you're probably like, most of these movies are for kids, but to be fair, most of them are pretty much geared towards kids anyways. Halloween is really a kids affair, but to be fair, as adults, we get to have fun on this holiday as well. But Monster House was actually a movie that I got to see when I was probably about really young. This tells you how old I am now. The Blu-ray looks good. There's a DVD copy in here, and I haven't owned this in a while, so this is actually a really good copy for me to own. What do I think about it? First of all, the whole basis of a monster house. The trailers did such a good job of conveying this scary movie, yet also being a funny comedy. It's really funny in that regard. And from that, you get a good movie. So first of all, the cast is mostly those three kids right there, and a few other characters here and there. You get a couple of looks at some of them right there on the back. This was, however, about $7 to $8, or about $6, I believe, at Walmart. It was in the bargain bin actually, so it was pretty good. Now, the whole story about the movie is that it takes place on Halloween. Actually, it starts on the day before Halloween, so October 30th, which I recall is sometimes called Mischief Night. It moves into Halloween. You get introduced, first of all, to the young boy who lives in the house. His parents go off to, I think, some kind of dental thing. Yes, they're dentists, believe it or not. They even have this giant toothbrush. And then he gets stuck with her, the babysitter. Sorry. Yeah, right there, the babysitter. Yeah, she would need a babysitter, but her. And, she's this user kind of babysitter. She's not a great person. And little things like that. So anyways, they get in, and eventually his friend shows up. Now the thing is, I kind of like and hate the friend at the same time, because he's one of those kids who's like, I spent 3 summers saving up for that basketball. He's practically fake crying, guilt tripping his friend because it's gone on to the haunted yard. I mean, literally, when the movie starts, you got this little kid just, it's like got this creepy vibe going through, and she gets stuck on part of that guy's yard. He comes out, and I believe it's Stevie Buscemi, I think, who does the voice. It's the one who plays Wayne in Hotel Transylvania. So you've already got that great voice, and he's a great actor and stuff, and it makes sense, and he's truly terrifying in some of the scenes. And yet he's also, later on, when you see most of the movie, you also find out he's actually very compassionate and caring too. It's a weird duality, but you have to see the whole movie to understand it. So anyways, he takes that, he goes in, the kid comes out later, his friend's basketball is in that yard, and then eventually the guy comes up and starts screaming at him and stuff like, stay off my lawn. And you find out later there's a reason for it. And he eventually, I think he has a stroke and stuff, or maybe a minor heart attack. It's never said in the movie what he has. And then the ambulances come. Now, the first sequence you get that tells you there's something really wrong with the house is as the paramedics are taking this guy away in the ambulance, we start to see blades of grass wrapping around the gurney. That's how serious this is. And that alone is creepy. And then the whole story begins and stuff, and eventually the babysitter and something else happens. This kid thinks he's killed this guy, and it's like stuff. And that brings up a question. Did he die, or is he dead or not? Is he the one doing all this? But that thing wrapping around, he's clearly not dead, because the sirens were on when the ambulance took off. So that's a good sign right there. Needless to say, this is when everything starts. The friend comes back over. They they go over. They knock on the door, and all of a sudden the house comes to life. I mean, literally, this is so cool. The house is a live haunted monster in this movie, and that's really done. It was so cool. And it still holds up pretty well to this day. I mean, yes, some of the animation has definitely, I would call it dated. Then, of course, they're trying to tell the babysitter she comes back with some friend, and then we start to see people and things getting taken in by the house. It's pretty clear something big-time bad is happening. When we get to the next day, though, We see this little girl. She's kind of a con artist. She's really cool in that regard. Coming to the neighborhood to sell chocolates and stuff. She's really pushy about it too. You can tell she's going to be a really interesting businesswoman. And she's like, well, you'll need your candy or you're going to avoid all this. She literally puts her foot in the door. And the boys, they have to go and stop her from going into the house, to going to the neighbor house. And they actually save her. She's like just shocked. She's trying to figure it out. And then they all watch the house come to life. And on this day of Halloween, they're trying to convince people. The house is extremely intelligent. That's the other thing that happens. I mean, they're literally on the lawn pulling grass out. And the cops, they're like, they're not real cops, you can tell. But it's so interesting. Anyways, as they go through this, they start to develop plans. They're developing all this stuff. They're trying to get it. And the movie just keeps escalating. And at first they're like, oh, we don't have to do anything. It's Halloween. Then they see trick-or-treaters coming. Then they see literally the guy's basketball. And he's about to go in, and you realize it's baiting him. And the ball reveals like a pumpkin face. And he's like, it's going to be a massacre. That's how serious the film gets. And it just keeps escalating from there. You get a few people who tell you certain things. Like the guy who's Napoleon Dynamite, he actually appears in the movie as a voice actor, which I thought was just cool because it's like, and he's playing this arcade game, which is pretty terrifying. And on the, if I had had the original release, you would actually have seen one of the digital characters from that game on the side, but I don't have that. So that gives you a hint on how serious. And the guy is kind of an interesting character. He's this pizza delivery guy. And he gives the information, and they find out very quickly it's true. And eventually we learn the history of the house and the characters. And then we have this final battle sequence, which is really cool and also is a little heartwarming and stuff. And it is. And then, of course, at the end, well, you don't have to see the movie to find out. But that's the thing, though. It just keeps ratcheting up. It keeps getting better. You keep trying to find things like the supposed heart of the house to destroy it, to stop the evil. That's pretty cool. I don't care what anybody says. That's pretty cool. And the movie builds from that and actually becomes better from that. You have this constant escalation of things that are happening. And they start out slow. They build. They just keep building until eventually it's like, and I mean, really, it gets into your face and just becomes something totally different. The movie does that so well, and that's why I rather enjoy it. They really knew what they were doing here, and the movie actually works pretty good from that. And that's not saying a whole lot. I mean, this is actually one of those rare movies that is pretty good. There are moments which are actually terrifying and action-packed adventure and clearly Halloween inspired, and it's funny. And the whole ending of the movie is so interesting. Has it held up pretty well over time? Yeah, actually it has. So I'm just going to flat out give it a rating of an 8. And I'm going to highly recommend it to you to try out because this is such a good movie. It still stands up very well. And that's not something I can say very often. Plus, it's pretty cheap. So if you can find this movie, pick it up. It should be pretty cheap. And that right there is worth everything. And remember, it's still on DVD, it's on Blu-ray. I don't know if they made a 4K copy. I haven't been able to find one. But it's worth it. So check it out while you still can. Peace.